Whiskey fam. Sit down, grab a dram, and listen to the soothing sounds of your boy Whiskey One and your boy Chad Terry now, who's joining us to try some Black Opal from Widow Jane. So stick around. All right, folks. So I'm super excited to get into this bottle. This is going to be a fresh uncorking, and my friend Chad,
hello,
who also has his own podcast.
I do, yeah.
Decided, hey, I have this rare bottle. I think you're going to enjoy it, and I would like you to uncork it. And I thought, damn, that's actually kind of nice. Like, usually people don't have me uncorking their whiskey and trying it for the first time. So thank you, first and foremost.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And so you have a podcast.
I do.
And before we get into this, talk to me about your podcast.
So the podcast is called Craft Beer and Comics, a podcast. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I added the A podcast to it, but we did. Just that way you know what it is. We talk about two things, craft beer and comics.
I imagine.
Yeah. We have had a couple of celebrities on, so it's ever evolving, and I had to change some things around. So we're re-releasing all the episodes on Spodify. It'll be only available on Spodify because it is a free platform to be able to do that. So I was just like, why don't we narrow it down? One spot, everybody goes the same place. You can find us on Instagram as well and Facebook as well.
Okay. And by the way, I ran into Chad. I met Chad a couple of years ago as I was attempting to do my very own podcast and epically failed. We were at Jubilation, if I'm not mistaken, Jubilation. And if you've ever been to Jubilation, it's actually a nice store. They have a good wine section down below, and they sat me right next to the cash register, which is also nicely located near the freezer. So as they were helping out customers, you would constantly hear the freezers open and close. You would hear the register, people talking, and it was very loud. And so, that's why I said it's kind of an epic fail, because from a quality standpoint, it was really hard to hear people. And it was really hard to kind of conduct my business while they were conducting theirs. So
right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but that's how I met Chad. Actually, he kind of came up to me. He's like, hey, man, I do a podcast too. And he was telling me about it. I was like, cool, we have to link up sometime. And that was probably, I want to say either 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it must have been that long ago, which doesn't, I mean, that seems like a long time, but it also hasn't seemed like that long. So it's been great. Yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is, the conversation was like, hey, I got to get you on get you on the YouTube channel and see about talking about whiskey. And here we are 3 years later, right? So
yeah.
But anyway, I'm happy that you're able to join, and I'm even more happy that you're sharing this little gem with me. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about this bottle in particular. Why did you get it?
That's a very good question.
Because it was expensive.
It was very expensive. And Widow Jane very quickly became one of my favorite bourbons. Their entry level is a 10-year bourbon. Yep. And then they've got Decadence, which is aged in maple syrup, which is fantastic.
I really enjoy that one.
Yeah. And so I've tried to get everything that they come out with, and I have not been disappointed. So when they mentioned this Black Opal coming out, I was like, I got to get one of those. Mm-hmm. And then I saw how much it was, and I was like, oh, no.
That's going to hurt.
Yeah. But, within our group friends, somebody, I had mentioned it, and somebody was like, hey, I'm actually going to be at the distillery next week. If you're serious, I can get you one. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, no, again. And I said, yes, do that. So...
But in the back of your mind, you're like, but Israel will really like this whiskey, so I should do it.
Yeah, I thought of Israel first, and I said,
Everybody thinks of me first.
Yeah,
right?
I just got to do it, I did actually think of you, though, because I was
not too narcissistic of you.
It's not too bad. But I did think of you because I was looking around because it had been released, and I was looking for tasting notes, actual tasting notes. How different is it than the 10-year? Sure. How different is it than everything else? And there was nothing out there. And so I had thought, I was like, well, if I'm going to open this, I need to open it with you so that, number one, I'm pretty confident that your ability for taste is better than mine. And
We're going to find out.
we'll find out. And the fact that you have a platform to be able to put it on.
Sure.
And that way other people can peek in and see how it is and see if you want to spring for it or not.
Yep. And this is going to be a fresh uncorking, so I see that it's in a metal container. This thing's massive, by the way. You could probably kill somebody with this box alone.
Yeah, and I was very satisfied about how solid it was. It's not flimsy like it's a really good heavy duty
Yes, it is.
case.
Well, without further ado, I think we should get into it.
I think so. There's also some accoutrements in there that as you open it, you can pull those out. Each one comes with...
You know what? I'm going to be careful.
Yeah. Need
not
some help
to,
there?
well, I mean, it's got these curious doors here.
See through the doors.
Yeah.
So if you cast a light on it, it'll cast this on the wall.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
You've got...
Oh, you know what? Here's something that you probably won't see or notice on the photograph. I'm looking at this bottle, and there seems to be something going on the inside where it looks like there's indentations. The indentations are not on the outside, they're on the inside. But wow, this is a nice fancy bottle.
Right.
Okay.
And you felt how solid it was inside this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you don't risk anything of it falling out.
The bottle's kind of heavy too. It's got a heavy bottom, so.
Yeah. Now they give you, this has a nice little embossed front to it.
Yeah.
This here is just kind of like a little
Some
little literature about what you got there. I can hand that to you. And
Yeah.
then every single one comes with a numbered photograph from within the distillery. And so there's I think 7 different kinds of photographs you can get. And so they're actual like pieces of art. This is the barreling. So this is 480 of 1,000. So I was trying to figure out how many bottles they made of this.
Sure.
So if you've got...
So 1,000, right?
Well, if there's 7 different photos, each unique photos...
I'm going to move this over to the side too.
Then you would have up to 7,000 bottles. Because if you've got 1,000 of this photo, then 1,000 of the other one.
Sure.
If I'm accurate on the numbers.
And that is a pretty cool photo. As a matter of fact, like anytime I'm going to a distillery, I can't wait to see like their barrel house, their barrel room, whatever the case might be. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is pretty sick.
I
wanted to share a little bit of backstory behind this because I did have to do a little research because I did not know anything about Black Opal until he actually started talking to me about it. So here's the deets on this. This is a blend of different bourbons that are aged at no minimum than 20 years. So just understand that this is a blend. This is a blended bourbon. And what they did is they ended up finishing it. They didn't disclose like how long they finished it for, but in Mizunara casks. Now Mizunara casks tend to be all the rave. A lot of folks are kind of like jumping into the Mizunara game. You might hear folks kind of talking about different finishes. Sometimes they're usually wine finishes, sherry finishes. Yeah. And now Amberana is like the big thing. But Mizunara is one of those that seems to add a little class to your whiskey game. Now Mizunara in and of itself is a type of oak that's very porous. And it is going to impart quite a bit of like different spices and kind of elevate the overall flavor. Now, I tend to kind of like make fun of bourbon sometimes because, when I'm drinking bourbon, not that it doesn't taste good, but you get like the same types of character, right? You get your caramel, you get some black tea notes, you get a little baking spices,
the brown sugar,
the rye spice from time to time. If you're hanging out with my friend Daniel, he gets the rye spice. But yeah, you get like your vanillas, and that's kind of like your base flavor. Sometimes you get some cherry, you get a little bit of fruitiness, and that's kind of like the full range of the flavors that you typically get from bourbon. Now this is going to be a little different because it is finished in that Mizunara cask. Like I said, I wish I knew for how long, but I'm eager to get into it. What about you?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, so let me navigate the seal
It's got that cool embossed 20 on top.
It does. Do you want me to keep the...
Yeah, if you could. Yeah, I'll take a picture of it.
The wrapping
and then I'll throw
here?
it away.
All right. Now, if I can navigate how to open this thing. Do you have a knife or anything?
I do not.
Okay. Usually my friends carry knives.
Oh.
Just kidding. They don't.
Well,
some do.
Left it out. I carried glasses and bottles.
You
I
did.
didn't have room for knives.
And yeah, so when Chad came to the house, he was greeted very enthusiastically by my boxers, who almost knocked the glasses right out of his hand.
Yeah. I was like, hold on.
I seriously can't open this.
Let's see.
There we go. Now I got it. Okay.
Right,
Jeez. I didn't think we were going to get to it. We'd have to postpone for part 2. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready for this cork pop. Oh, that's a decent pop. I expect a little harder pop,
Yeah.
But that is a hefty cork, by the way.
Yeah.
And again, this is 20 years. This is a 2024 release, and I'm pretty sure you could probably still find these.
So, yeah, I'm sure you can.
Do you want me to pour?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now he brought it, so I might as well pour.
I spill all over the place. Like I said, I'm not an expert like this gentleman here.
I wouldn't go that far as to call me an expert, but these are nice glasses. Can you tell me a little bit about these glasses that you brought?
So these glasses are from Denver and Lily or Denver and Lily.
Can I pour myself like twice as much as I poured you?
Oh my God, you can pour me more if you want. But these glasses are specifically designed for bourbon. Okay. They're handmade. They're crystal. Ooh, you can hear that.
So nice crystal.
And so, I wanted to elevate my bourbon game because I do like bourbon over everything else. I like whiskeys of all sorts, but bourbon is my favorite. And this company, they make wine glasses, they make gin glasses, they make mezcal glasses, everything specific to what you're drinking. Luckily, the bourbon glasses do have a very nice presentation.
Yeah, so here's like the first level of distinction that comes to mind. I typically drink from a Glencairn, but what I notice is like if you're drinking a Glencairn, you tap the top, that thing might get knocked over because it is heavy on the bottom, but it's also narrow. This thing is not going to get knocked over, very easy. So this might be a party favorite when you're having a lot of guests over. You don't have to worry about that.
As long as they don't break them.
Yeah, because it is crystal.
Yeah.
And these are his, so I definitely wouldn't want to knock them over. But this is your whiskey, so let's dive into this, shall we?
Let's do it.
Cheers, Errol.
Cheers.
On the nose, let's see. You tell me what you get on the nose.
I see. I'm scared. See, I'm not as good as you. But
the
first thing that I do notice is I get that smell more out of this, obviously, than I do the Glencairn. Like it really brings
it does have
it
that
up.
tapered
Right.
edge, so that kind of helps.
Kind of like a Coca-Cola a little bit.
Okay.
Black tea for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of
it's
what
a
else.
really nice nose, by the way.
So almost like a flower petal.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying words
No,
at this point, but...
you're doing good. Actually, you're spot on with the flower petal. Usually, like a flower note is going to be a little harder to pick out, and it usually takes a little bit of time to air before you start getting a little bit more of those subtle, nuanced flavors. But I'm glad you picked that out because that is what I'm getting.
All right.
It is a bit floral.
Do you get red vines?
So I was waiting for you to kind of tell me what you got. But yes, the first thing I notice is very telltale of being, I'll just say Widow Jane. Widow Jane has this cherry note, this dark cherry note that does feel a lot like the red vine Twizzler candy, that type of thing.
Red vine.
Okay,
very
red vine.
specific.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, imply Twizzler, but yeah, no, it does have that candied cherry note to it.
Yeah.
I think that's what Twizzlers are, is like that cherry flavor, maybe a little strawberry. But that was the first thing I noticed. And it jumps out at you. It comes right at you right from the get-go. But then once that fruitiness sort of levels off, I get a lot more of different types of spices. The first thing that kind of came to me was a little bit like cumin,
Okay.
Yeah, you get the like the winter spices,
Yeah.
the baking spices there. But I get more of an earthy note. A little bit of umami is what I pick out.
For sure.
Tobacco is definitely there. There's
Yeah.
a tobacco. No, it's a darker bourbon. Not darker in color. That's not what I'm implying. But like a darker overall feel and overall flavors are just dark and spicy.
Yeah.
Now, I did go to their website and they do have tasting notes if you go to Widow Jane. Now, one of the tasting notes that I thought was, I wonder if they kind of injected that, was white miso. And I like miso soup. So,
Okay.
and matter of fact, we just had miso last night with the family. So in here, I think I could see that, but to me, it feels more on the leathery side, more on the, like a leather bound book.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get necessarily miso, but I could see it.
I mean, and this is obviously a note that is more of a feel than a smell or a taste or
Sure.
anything.
Yeah.
It screams to me classic old man bourbon,
Yeah.
sitting in his den
Right.
on a leather chair, just
Yeah.
winter with snow falling outside, and he's just
I would
That's
have to
bourbon.
agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It feels more refined. From the get go, you get this sense that this is a whiskey that you should take your time with,
right.
because there's a lot going on. I drink the bourbons and the other whiskeys that you come to it, and the first thing you know is like one note, and that's about it. Maybe a second note,
Right.
and it's not an interesting conversation. It's not very clever, as you approach it. But this feels very, very, I don't know if exotic is the right word, but it's very interesting, and it's complex for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
But let's have a little sip. Cheers, y'all. Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. This is bottled at 99 proof. To me, it feels higher proof than that. It's not hotter, just higher proof. Like it feels more dense, more full bodied. It clings on to your palate a whole lot more. And that's what tends to happen as you're drinking higher proof whiskeys. Now, mind you, this is not bottom level 80 proof stuff. This is damn near 100 proof. So it's kind of close to that bottle and bond proof that a lot of folks actually like, that 50 to 54% alcohol range. But yeah, I mean, the flavors that I got on the note are not quite what I get on the taste. The taste feels way more fruitier.
Right.
And way more complicated as far as like spices. It does dance on the tongue, for me anyway. What about you? What are your initial thoughts on this?
It's hard. Like for me, the taste is harder to discern than the smells were.
Mm. Do you get
and-
the Twizzler?
I don't get Twizzler taste out of it. No,
I get black cherry.
black cherry for sure, and almost like a dark chocolate, like covered cherry, because you get that in the back a little bit.
You ever have flavored tobacco? Like flavored pipe tobacco, or you ever smell flavored pipe tobacco?
Yeah, maybe when I was younger.
That's what it feels like on the taste. The black cherry tobacco.
Yes.
It's almost like somebody
Yep.
has flavored tobacco.
And it is pipe tobacco, like specifically versus a cigar. Yeah, I know
Sure.
exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah. But this is, wow.
And
This is really good, by the way.
there is a taste. It is very good. There's a taste I can't put my finger on, and I wonder if it is the wood that they aged it in.
Perhaps.
Because you know how you like, oh, the oak, you get that. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know if that.
Well, here's the first thing to know. And as you guys are watching, this is a 20-year whiskey before it's finished, right? So any bourbon that is aged at least 20 years should give a lot of complexity, a lot of things going on. It should not be a one-trick pony. This is definitely not that. And the fact that they took it a step, a step further and said, hey, let's take a Char 1 Mizunara cask. Let's see what happens with this. Is interesting. Now, one thing I'm just going to kind of point out is if you go to the website, it says that they used a toasted Mizunara oak. But on the literature here, it does says that there's a Char 1 cask. So who knows? Who knows? I'm not here to dispute. But this is, overall, this is just a very nice whiskey. And if I'm watching this video, not sure what to expect, and I'm wondering, do I make the plunge? I see it on a website. I want to get it. Is it worth it? The price point is about $500, give or take. That does not include like your shipping. If you do find it on like a certain retail site where, maybe you have to put in for it, like an auction or something like that, you're going to pay a little extra. Now, the first thing I'm asking is, like, do I do that, right? I'm going to have a couple more sips before I make that conclusion. But I could tell you this. If somebody poured this for me, I would want a bottle for myself. And I do want a bottle for myself. So, Chad, thank you for leaving the bottle with me when we're done with the video.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
No, I want to take another sip. So, cheers again, you guys.
And it is very viscous. Like it lingers in there.
So I don't know if this is what you were kind of thinking as far as tasting notes. And certain bourbons, and these are the ones that I really gravitate to, have this root beer, cherry cola thing going on, almost like syrupy, but not decadent, but just like a thick, maybe not overbearing or something like that, but it's definitely like a root beer cola taste.
Yeah.
It evolves beyond that black tea note that you typically get from a lot of like Kentucky straight bourbons. Mind you that, again, this being a blend, they did disclose that it's a blend of Kentucky, Indiana, and the what's the other one? Kentucky, Indiana.
Is there Tennessee in there?
And Tennessee, yeah. So it does start out as, different, a blend of different bourbons. Again, minimum age is 20 years, so they might even have some stuff that's a little older. I'm not sure it's going to be like a 30-year bourbon introduced there, but pretty close to that 20-year mark. But you can tell that this is classy, and I think that's the one thing that if I was going to splurge and get something on the premium side, I want to feel like I'm drinking something classy because damn it, I did spend some classy money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is on par with that, honestly. This is a fantastic whiskey.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If you pull this out and you don't tell your friends that you're going to give them something special, you just like, hey, tell me what you think about this.
Yeah.
The way that I'm seeing it, they would be like, that is complex. What is it? And they would want to know more and more about it. And that root beer, that cola, that sip I had right before I was trying to put my finger on it, that's exactly,
is it? Okay.
It's right in there. I felt like I used to get those old root beer candies.
Yeah, exactly.
And as soon as you said that, I was like, boom, I was right there.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So my palate's not totally trash. Not totally trash. Now here's a couple of notes that I don't get that I typically do with bourbons. I get more of the dark chocolate, cocoa, cacao, like cocoa powder, like a Nesquik. When you open that jar of Nesquik and you're like, got that powder in there. That's where I get a lot more of than I get like on the vanilla side. Now, comparatively, you tend to get more vanillins from the barrel, especially if you're using char, and I'm sure they're using char 3 barrels, right? And the other thing too is I get more of a salted toffee note versus a caramel note. Caramel tends to, for me anyway, tends to be a lot more brown, sugary, creamier, and this feels more darker. Like again, this feels like a dark whiskey. Like maybe there's some dark arts going on here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's a good point, is because a lot of bourbons that I do like are more brown sugar, more caramel, but you're right, those flavors are not, if they're there, they're not bouncing out at me.
And who knows, maybe the whiskey just tastes elevated because we're drinking from such a fancy glass.
Could be.
Could be.
We got to make sure we do it right.
That is true. Pinky's up. All right. My overall thoughts and impressions, and this might seem a little obvious to you guys, because I usually have a 3-tier system, right? You got your novice, your curious, and your connoisseur. I think at all levels, every tier is going to appreciate this. But because of, the fact that you are going to have to pay a little bit of a premium price, and those that will do so tend to be the connoisseurs, the ones that really, really know what they're after and really know what they want. This is who I feel like it would speak to the most, is the connoisseur, whiskey drinker, However, you mentioned like, hey, if I poured this blind for somebody, they would definitely appreciate it.
100%.
Yeah, I would say so. I wouldn't even bother telling them what I paid for it. I don't think it becomes irrelevant at that point when it's this good. But would I get this bottle? I think I would. I absolutely do. This drink's higher proof. So, I noticed that there are bottles out there that are around $400 or $500, and they're about as low as you can get on the proof side. And some of those kind of feel like I'm not getting raw, but like I'm not getting everything that I should get.
That makes sense. Well, when you're spending more, you're expecting over what is minimum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If
your expectations go up as you spend up.
Right? And I think we discussed earlier, we were, the more that you spend, it feels like there's this other side of it where your disappointment is easier with the more that you spend, the possibility. I feel like for this, I was not disappointed. But to your point, yeah, when you are spending, you're expecting the higher proof, not the bottom proof. You're expecting a flavor, like, I don't want to say a flavor bomb, but there was a lot of complexity to this.
You don't want to be underwhelmed.
Right.
Like, that's the last thing you want.
Because then you're like, oh, I can get this from the bourbon that I get at my everyday sipper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not your everyday sipper, by the way.
No.
It doesn't drink that way, and it shouldn't be drank that way. My goodness. But it's not my whiskey, so I'm looking to have a lot more of it. But I want to say thank you again, Chad.
Absolutely.
I sincerely appreciate you letting me uncork it.
Yeah.
Reveal it with the Whiskey Fan.
Heck yeah.
So thank you, sir. And hopefully he gets another bottle that's high end, and I'm going to invite him again at that point.
Sounds good.
All right, just mess around. Seriously, thank you so much. And for all you guys watching, thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you had some fun along the way. You got enough deets to know whether to get this bottle or not. And always remember, here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.
That's a great picture.